Hi, I want to show you my first Stitches journal, which is a record of my story for the First Stitches project on my website, on my channel, Susan Stanley Stitch in Time, as we go through stitching in the 19th century and explore my fictional little girls who are based on diaries and journal entries and information I've gathered about stitching during that time. And we are learning to do our stitching through their eyes. So I wanted to keep a record of the story that I had been creating, and I needed something that was going to hold all these pages with a lot of different textures. I've got fabric in here, I have stickers, I have written entries, I have the typed notes of the chapters that I've been reading as we explore this, this way of looking at stitching in the 19th century and what was available, and getting approximate experience to what people did and how things were accomplished. And then we also look at more contemporary methods. But I needed to find a journal that had thick enough pages and could absorb the width and the spine that I was going to create. You can see it's almost full, and it's distorted, but not horribly. I mean, the book is closing. There is this wonderful elastic that you can put over to keep it flat. And I like to shut it. As soon as I've glued a bunch in there, I shut it and weight it. But anyway, I want to show you what I've done and how I get going on a page. So the product that I'm using for the book is this mixed media paper pad. It comes in different sizes. It has a texture to the cover. This is not, as I was told, this is not real paper. This isn't paper made from fiber. It's a composite of probably some man-made materials. I really don't know, but you know what? For this, it's working perfectly, because the paper, what I found with this paper, it absorbs anything you put on it. It absorbs it and it doesn't bleed through, and the glue really, really helps you adhere the pages, the items that you're adding to the pages. So I also like it because it comes with this rubber gluing mat. This is great for gluing your items before you put them in the book, and also it works really well if you've got a page that's really saturated. You can just clean it off, make sure it's clean and dry, and then put it between the pages so you're not worried about anything sticking together. So I started with this book, and I'm really pleased with it. The next thing I do when I'm getting ready to start a new page, and you can see I've got, well, right here I've got, some ephemera, some pictures off the internet that I've captured to add to my book that go along with the storyline and the theme. But the items that I use, that I need when I'm getting ready to make a page, I have paper scissors. I also use an old Olfa mat that is used typically for cutting fabric, and I have an Olfa cutter specifically designated for paper, and I've written on it so it doesn't get used for fabric. And I don't know if you can, there you go, it's focusing. This comes in really, really handy. I'm used to using an Olfa cutter paired with the ruler. This is my favorite ruler. You get nice, clean, straight edges. You can cut with the scissors as well, but I just find I get a really clean line using these two together. This can be used interchangeably between the paper and the fabric, so that's not a worry. It's just that, you don't want to use fabric scissors on paper. It dulls the blade, and so I like to designate one for each. All right, so those are the cutting tools that I like to use. I also have a tiny ruler just for measuring things that are going to go onto the page, make sure they're lining up straight. You know, there's some character that you get from a book that's not perfect and things that aren't lined up exactly right, but there's certain elements that need to be straight, and you know, it's up to you. It's what makes you happy. The two glues that I really like, my favorite one is this Zig two-way glue. Now this is becoming harder and harder to find, but boy does it work. It's a very wet glue. It really saturates the items that you're going to stick into your mixed media book. And when you get it, this nib at the top is white, and you pump it and load it with the glue, and it lasts for several pages. And I do a lot of gluing. You can see in my book, I'll show you again after, I have lots of typewritten pages that where I'm writing the story out that I'm gluing into the book. I also like this glue, the Yoo-Hoo stick. It works really well. It's more like a glue stick. It's not as wet, but it also adheres very nicely. What I like about this glue is if you don't get every little section of the paper that you're adhering to the book, it's very forgiving. And they both dry clear. As far as I can tell, I try to be careful not to have a ton of overspill, but you know, things happen. I like to have a bone folder just to fold pages in half, fold items in half. You know, it just helps cut down on the wear and tear of your fingers. Your fingers get really dry working with paper. All the oils get absorbed into the paper. So I like to have that to keep my hands free a tiny bit. Writing instruments. Of course, I like to pencil things in, and my new favorite pencil right now is the Black Wing. I like the pearl. You can also buy a cap for it, but it has wax and ceramic in the lead, so it glides beautifully over the paper, and you can write in with a light touch and very easily erase it. I also got the Black Wing eraser. So that's for when I'm laying out something and I want to plan it before I stick it all down, and I want to etch in a little bit with a pencil. I also like this M301 by Zebra. It's a mechanical pencil. You can get 0.3, 0.5, and 0.7 lead options, but I go to this 0.5 a lot, and it also erases nicely and is a really sharp tip point if you want to add a little bit of interest to your book. I usually cover up the pencil with pen, and the pens that I've been using and loving are the Paper Mate Ink Joy. It's 07. It's a rollerball pen, and it does a nice job rolling over this paper. I use that a lot. But my very favorite are the Staedtler pigment liners. They come with different widths. I love the 05 and the 03. Those are my go-to. And they're like the very last thing I add to a page is the written element. And sometimes that can be scary because you've worked so hard on this page, and it's kind of scary thinking that you're going to mess it up. But you know what? You can always cover things up with another sticker or piece of paper. So I keep a collection of stickers that I could use in the book. I keep those on hand. And I keep a lot of extra pieces of paper. I don't throw any of them away. Like I said, if you need to cover something up, there's lots of options if you keep your little scraps. I mean, I actually have a box of them. So I just dig, and I try not to be too picky about it. I try to just get it going. So sometimes it's nice to back a picture with a photo with paper, or just add it for interest. And then when I start on a page, I try to come up with a theme. So let me push these out of the way. I try to come up with a theme for the page. And so this page right here, the theme is the tinsmith. And we had talked about the tinsmith coming to town in the story. And I wanted to find some pictures on the internet that I could use. Now these are not copyright free, so you have to go in there and find them yourself. I can't share them with you, but for personal use, I think it's just fine to put them in your book. So I had written, I had a little bit going on here about tinsmiths and the quilt templates that would be used. And so I had this big page right here showing some antique templates. I have a picture of a little girl carrying her candle up to bed. This was part of the story where Farabee was putting on her long gown and setting down her candle and getting ready to be tucked in under the quilts. And I needed to embellish this page. I wasn't sure what else I was going to do with it, so I just added a few scraps of paper and that for interest, and I will likely cut these out and glue them on here and just maybe write a tiny bit about the tinsmith. The writing is the last thing I do, and you can see here I've got chapter headings, I've got locations and dates. You can go back and add and add and add. But I thought this might help you get started in your book. And I hope you enjoy doing it because it's super fun.